I never expected my own sister to betray me like that. For most of my life, Sarah and I had shared everything: laughter, late-night conversations, and even grief when our parents passed away. We were raised in a modest home, and when our parents died, they left behind a surprising fortune, $6.8 million to be exact, which they had quietly built through decades of investing and saving. I had been the responsible one, the one who took care of them in their last years, ran all their errands, paid their bills, and stayed at the hospital when they were sick. Sarah was always the free spirit, hopping from one failed business to the next, borrowing money she never returned, and dating men who treated her poorly. Still, I never thought she'd turn on me after the will was read and it was revealed that the entire estate would go to me. Sarah acted surprised, but said nothing. "You deserve it," she said with a forced smile. But I could feel the tension between us thickening every time we spoke. Weeks passed, and then she started calling. More often, being sweet, asking how I was, inviting me to brunch. It felt like she was trying to reconnect, and part of me wanted to believe she was genuinely trying. Then came her birthday. She insisted on throwing a joint celebration for both of us, she said. I didn't want to go, but she begged. She said she had a surprise that would bring us back together. That should have been my first clue that something was wrong. But I went. The party was held at a lavish rented villa on the outskirts of town, the kind you'd see in movies. She told me she'd rented it for one night and invited only close friends and family. When I arrived, I was greeted by a crowd of people I barely recognized, most of them clearly not close friends. I felt overdressed in a simple blue dress, while everyone else looked like they were attending a red carpet event. The decorations were extravagant: golden balloons, ice sculptures, a DJ playing loud music. It didn't feel like a birthday party. It felt like a staged event. Sarah came to greet me wearing a glittering silver gown and heels she could barely walk in. She hugged me tightly and whispered, "Tonight's the night, sis." I had no idea what she meant. The night progressed awkwardly. Every now and then, I'd catch her whispering to people while glancing at me. At dinner, she topped her glass with a spoon and stood up to make a toast. What followed was a performance I'll never forget. She began recounting our childhood memories, painting herself as the loving sister who always protected me. Then she shifted the tone. "But not all sisters are as selfless," she said, turning toward me. "Some people hoard wealth. Some people manipulate wills. Some people forget where they came from." Everyone stared. I froze, unsure whether to laugh or walk out. Sarah continued her twisted monologue, practically accusing me of stealing the inheritance. She told everyone that she had been cut out unfairly, that our parents had been manipulated by me in their final years, and that I had isolated them while she was kept away. None of it was true, but the room was now charged with tension. People whispered and stared. Some guests I didn't even know began filming with their phones. I stood up and told her to stop, but she ignored me. Then came the real blow. She invited a lawyer on stage. He stood beside her and announced that Sarah had filed a legal motion to contest the will, claiming undue influence, and had new evidence that would prove I coerced our parents. My heart dropped. I hadn't seen it coming. This was no party. It was an ambush. The entire evening had been orchestrated to humiliate me and sway public opinion. I could feel the blood drain from my face. She wasn't just attacking me emotionally. She was coming for everything. The $6.8 million. The house, the stocks, the vintage cars. Everything our parents had left behind, everything I had cared for, preserved and managed, was now under siege. And she was doing it with champagne in hand and a smile on her face. I left the villa without another word, humiliated and shaken. That night I barely slept. The betrayal was too much. I called my lawyer first thing the next morning and told him everything. He assured me we would fight it and win. Sarah didn't have a case. But that didn't stop her from launching a public campaign. She began sharing emotional posts online, spinning the narrative that she was the forgotten daughter, the one who had been robbed by her greedy sister. Old family friends began calling me, unsure who to believe. My inbox was flooded with messages, some supportive, many accusatory. It became clear that she wasn't just fighting me legally, she was waging a PR war. She even went on a local podcast, crying and claiming I had brainwashed our parents. My lawyer advised me not to respond publicly, so I stayed silent. But it killed me inside. This wasn't just about money anymore. This was about dignity, truth, and legacy. I started gathering evidence, emails, call logs, text messages, even hospital records that showed I was the one present during our parents' final months. I compiled everything. I knew I had to be ready for court, but more importantly, I had to protect the truth. I couldn't let her rewrite our family's history with lies just because she wanted a share she didn't earn. The court date was set. 6 weeks later, in the days leading up, I tried to keep a low profile. But Sarah doubled down. She posted childhood photos with misleading captions. She paid for sponsored content on social media, dragging my name through the mud. The media picked up on the rich sister versus poor sister angle, and suddenly our private family drama became public entertainment. Tabloids ran stories with headlines like millionaire heiress accused of manipulating parents will end birthday bombshell. Sister betrayed over $6.8 million fortune. I couldn't believe this was real life. But what kept me strong was the memory of my parents. I remembered Mom holding my hand during chemo. Dad telling me, "You're the rock of this family." I knew they chose to leave me everything because they trusted me. They saw how Sarah had abandoned them during their hardest times. They knew who would protect their legacy. On the morning of the hearing, I walked into the courtroom wearing a navy suit and holding a binder filled with proof. Sarah walked in. Behind me, dressed like she was attending a fashion show, with a smug look and cameras following her. But I wasn't afraid. I was ready to defend what was right. The courtroom battle was brutal. Sarah's lawyer used every tactic possible: emotional manipulation, character assassination, even fake witnesses. But my team was stronger. My lawyer presented clear evidence, medical logs showing my daily hospital visits, bank transfers I made to pay their bills, photos of me at their bedside. We showed emails where Dad thanked me for being the only one who stayed. The judge listened patiently. I could see his expression shift with every document presented. Sarah tried to cry on the stand, but her crocodile tears couldn't cover the truth. Then came the final moment. My lawyer presented a video, a recording I had taken of our father just a week before his death. In it, he clearly stated, "Sarah lost her way, but you stayed. You've earned this. Take care of our legacy." The courtroom fell silent. Sarah's face turned pale. The judge called for a recess, and I knew we had one. When we returned, the ruling was swift. The will was upheld, and Sarah's motion was dismissed. But the damage she caused lingered. Even though I legally won, the emotional scars remained. Our extended family was divided. Some relatives refused to speak to me, believing Sarah's lies. Others quietly congratulated me, afraid of becoming her next target. Sarah herself never apologized. In fact, she disappeared for a while, went on some retreat, and re-emerged online weeks later with a new narrative. I fought for justice but was silenced. Her followers clapped, none of them knowing the truth. But what surprised me most was what happened after. One of her old friends, someone who had been at the party, sent me a message. He had overheard Sarah planning the birthday trap. Weeks before it happened, he gave me voice notes of her bragging about how she'd shock me into sharing the money. I forwarded them to my lawyer, but we decided not to sue. I didn't want another court battle. Instead, I focused on healing. I moved out of town, started donating part of the inheritance to causes our parents cared about: cancer research, education for underprivileged kids, and elderly care. I felt closer to them than ever before, and in their memory, I chose peace over vengeance. Today, when people ask me about my sister, I just smile and say, we don't talk much. That's the truth, and also the gentlest way to put it. I've rebuilt my life far away from the toxicity, in a quieter place where no one knows about the inheritance or the betrayal. I keep the memories of my parents alive not with money, but with action. I've set up a small scholarship in their name and visit the same hospital where Mom was treated, volunteering when I can. Every time I see a family in need, I try to be the person my parents raised me to be, someone who helps, who listens, who doesn't run when things get hard. As for Sarah, I occasionally hear her name pop up in gossip, always linked to some new drama, but I don't get involved. I've learned that some wounds are better left closed. What she did at that party, turning a birthday into a courtroom circus, was unforgivable. But holding on to anger only robs me of peace. I've let go, not for her sake, but for mine. Because I know who I am, I know what my parents saw in me. And no trap, no lie, no betrayal can ever take that away.